Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today we're taking a look at another high-level match of Beyond All Reason. This is the start of a series that I'm super excited about called Beyond All Reason Nation Wars. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the match today, we have everyone organized by nation. It's a little series that's going on, well, little but growing series. There's a lot of players that are competing in it, where players are organizing themselves into teams based on their nationality and competing for, I guess, the number one crowned champions on the Beyond All Reason Nation Wars. Today, spawning on the western side. I guess we'll go with our blue player first. We met our blue player first. Spawning on the western side, representing our blue team. Oh, wait a second. Hold on a second. 32, 32, 44, 42. This is not our blue team leader. Colors got a little mixed up here, it would appear. Spawning all the way in the top left-hand corner here, representing the blue team, but in purple, it's going to be Rebel Node. Also, our Finnish team leader here, representing Finland, and going to be starting with 2 metal extractors, couple of wind turbines, and a laser turret. These are all a 4 versus 4 format, as you can tell by the, amount of players in each team here. So be excited for that. I sure am. I love the 4v4 format. Don't get me wrong, 8v8 is definitely a whole lot of fun, but 4v4 really allows a lot of individuality between these players, and I think we get to see the spirit of individual players a whole lot more than in 8v8, where you're really locked into your role, and you don't get to be, quite as creative as I really feel like some of these players are going to be able to. Now, all the way across the map, representing our Polish team, it's going to be Nawick, and Nawick has spawned all the way across the map from Rebel Node, so they are mirrored. However, this is a map that is balanced diagonally, acrosswise. It's balanced in such a way that this is not the same start position, it is a different start position. That's not to say that it isn't a competitive starting position, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nawick moving into the water here eventually, starting with the bot lab for now, but that's just to get a rudimentary economy up and running. With 20 tidal power, it's definitely worth it to go into tidal generators. There's just not that much space on this map, so you're gonna have to split your economy between wind turbines, between power generators, between all that good stuff, and I'm all here for it. Did I get that? Oh, I didn't get that right. Yeah, I just realized I should probably check this team as well, and it does look like there was a color mix up here as well, as apparently it's actually our orange player who is the true skill leader here, Shogunik, who is already in the water and building quite a few metal extractors already. I really love to see it. We do have those tidal generators as well, helping produce enough energy to keep everything afloat out here on the high seas. Very nicely done. So this is really cool. We already see aggression across the map. 2 sets of grunts, or 2 players of grunts moving across here. We have Commander Zod and we have Nerd C, both players that we've seen on the channel, as well as Rebel Node, actually. Tasal we saw in the most recent 1v1 Pro League tournament. They were playing in that one. And I believe they kicked my ass. I could be wrong about that, but I believe they absolutely stomped me. If not me, then it was somebody else. But anyways, we've got some very experienced players. Although the true skills don't seem to reflect it, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some very high-level play here. All of the Nation Wars contenders are organized by true skill, so that's how you compete to be on the team. Sort of like the Olympics, right? You have to qualify by being above a certain skill level, so I'm sure that all of these players, despite what their true skills indicate, they are the best of the best for their nation. So I'm excited to see what they can bring out on the field. Dankest is the one on the southern side for the blue team, going to be going up against the top-rated player here, orange player, Shogunik, for the red. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on here. Already losing a frigate is not a good start. You definitely want to hold on to just about as many of your ships as you can in the early game. Very necessary that you spiral them like crazy. Right now, I think Dankest is right to retreat this boat backwards. I wouldn't mind him falling back to the static defense, using the commander, because of course these dolphins have no underwater capabilities. If the 1v1 tournament highlighted anything, it was that although I may not be the best in a 1v1 matchup, I sure as hell know my Navy. That was the one map that I took in that Pro League tournament, was on a Navy map on Paradise Lost. And I was pretty happy about that. At the very least, I felt revitalized in my naval gameplay, even though my 1v1 skills definitely need some freshening up, that's for sure. Res Sub included here, and that is actually really nice. Yeah, Res Sub is going to allow him to eat up this wreckage right here of this Dolphin, as well as this one. It's going to allow him to repair, which is quite good on those frigates, which are very tanky. Well, relatively tanky anyways. And it's overall just going to be a tremendous resource to use right here. Grunts are already pressuring across the map, as you can see. Commander Zod and Nerd C using them to harass down the forces of Marion right here in the middle of the map. Marion did go into a vehicle lab, so it does have those incisors. Those incisors have been buffed up a little bit from the last time that I checked in on them, and we saw a whole lot of that in the 1v1 tournament. Incisors were the name of the game in that tournament, and they really did a phenomenal job of showcasing their power there. They're a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure. Tosal making sure to claim up these metal extractors. No reason to leave those unclaimed. I would say the same exact thing of this one and these two up here as well. Wouldn't even mind seeing the commander move over there to do that, although there is a submarine out on the map, and those submarines can do a lot of damage to those commanders. 10% per shot, give or take. So yeah, definitely very important to keep that in mind when you go for any aggression like that. Dink is using the commander to build some static defense to sort of rally to, and then using this constructor here to patch up his ships and eat up whatever metal is left on the ocean floor by his enemy. At this point, I wouldn't even mind a resurrection, because we are so low on metal and we have so much extra energy right now. Resurrecting this ship might not be the worst idea, and then you have a little bit of an HP buffer, and at the end of the day, as long as your opponent is just going to keep throwing dolphins at you, they have no depth charge launcher capability, so it's essentially free money, right? You just resurrect the ship, it falls, you eat it up, it gives you a little bit of service, and then it dies. It all returns back to the machine god. Destroyer is out here, though, and that is a bigger threat. Definitely something to be a little bit more wary of, yeah. You have to be very careful. That torpedo launcher also getting some massive connection. Losing that frigate is really huge right now. Shogunek also has his commander up front here, and he is going to repair up this torpedo launcher. If either that torpedo launcher or that whoa, we are drifting sideways. I was going to say that if either that torpedo launcher or the destroyer go down here, that's going to be a huge disadvantage for the orange player, but both stay alive, and the torpedo launcher will be repaired back up to full health. And there is a torpedo launcher here for Dankist as well, so you have to be careful. Ooh, don't move that destroyer in too close. Yep, that thing's going to get scratched up pretty badly. Luckily, the commander can repair it back up to full HP, but it's not like Dankist couldn't repair these with his commander as well as the Death Cavalry, so this is a quite substantial fight down here on the southern side. Meanwhile, Commander Zod as well as Nerdsea have both walked their commanders all the way across the map, and they are going to start immediately pressuring the front lines. They have rocket bots out here to break down any of these that they can. These are just Dragon's Teeth. I'm checking for Dragon's Maw, the pop-up flamethrower turret. Looks like all of these are just fortifications for now. I don't mind it. Those direct fire rockets, they are not exactly the best at arcing over the top of buildings. They tend to just fly in a straight line, and so usually these Dragon's Teeth can, yeah, I mean, they're somewhat valuable, right? They can protect anything that's the same height as the aggravators, agitators, rocket bots, anything like that. They're not going to do so well against artillery units, but that's okay. They don't really have to. They're just meant to prevent or at least delay the siege a little bit longer than you'd like. Riot tanks are coming out here immediately out of Commander Zod's forward vehicle bay, though, and that is going to start laying down the law. Yeah, Pawn's not going to stand a chance against that riot tank. Anti-swarm riot cannon. Very powerful stuff. Very difficult to deal with. Incisors also quite prone to falling to that riot tank fire, yeah. You can see these pawns here melting away under that heavy riot cannon. I think that's what's called a riot cannon. Yeah, riot cannon withering away at all those forces. Now the rocket bots are falling. This is not looking good here for the forces of yellow and hot pink. A lot of rocket bots that are inactive at the moment, not trading out effectively, and that's going to cost them quite a lot. Counter riot tanks are built, and I mean, one riot tank and 3 riot tanks are effectively the same if you can get the splash damage to affect all 3 riot tanks. In other words, the riot tanks are a lot better against clumped up units. You can see there's a lot of AoE on their attack there. Huge impulse field. Going to slow down whatever they encounter. We're up to 4 frigates and no destroyers here for Dankist. He does have a submarine though, so I like that quite a bit. Well, that frigate's pretty low. Yeah, important to keep these alive. Oh yeah, don't want to. I would love to see this pulled back here, but I don't think he's going to be able to. Yeah, one of those frigates does go down here. Submarine at the very least is included though, so we are able to start firing away at whatever is under the sea. And right now, what's under the sea is a commander, and that's actually pretty risky because that commander's standing right next to all your ships, right? You don't want to lose all this. Being said, these frigates don't really have the firepower to shut this down, and now that dolphin is such a menace. Eventually, it looks like the forces here of Shogunek will go down. Commander in a little bit of trouble too, though. Yep, 10% of HP per shot here. Takes about 11 shots because the commander can regen, of course, and the torpedoes don't always hit. But yeah, certainly a very powerful option for killing those commanders very quickly. It's going to be a commander versus commander underwater fight here in no time at all. Shogunek kiting around properly here, making sure that his commander isn't hit by these torpedoes while the submarine is firing away. It's a difficult thing to micro. Yep, I think this is the right move. We need to move these units in and do a little bit of attack damage here. I think using these frigates aggressively is probably not a bad idea, considering how much wreckage we're eating up currently out of the bottom of the ocean floor. I think that's probably going to be a huge benefit for the light blue player here on the Finnish team. Nowik is holding his own. He's got a lot of submarines out, and there's only a single destroyer here, but a single destroyer is quite sturdy, especially those Cortex destroyers. Very, very sturdy unit, and so I wouldn't be surprised if that's enough to, at the very least, forestall these submarines from doing any kind of damage. Would love to see them trying to attack through the sides. Maybe one submarine peeled off and sent to kill these metal extractors wouldn't be a bad idea. Frigates, of course, can't shut down those submarines, so if you send a submarine and you set it on hold fire, this is one of my favorite, cheekiest plays to do. Send a submarine around and cue it in this direction, right? So it goes along the side, but also set it on hold fire so that it doesn't shoot at anything. There's no detection other than that destroyer. And as long as it doesn't run into any detection, yeah, you're going to be in a great spot because, well, how are they going to kill what they can't see? These forces have pushed incredibly far forward. There are resbots out here, and they're going to start eating things up as quickly as they can. Would have liked to see the res on that light laser tower, actually, I think. Anyways, minor nitpick on the back of a relatively successful, actually a wildly successful forward push here. Blue artillery trucks kind of committing a lot of friendly fire here. That being said, there's a lot of riot tanks that have gone down, creating a rough terrain for these units to walk through. Still 2,000 metal right here, and I think these resbots are more than happy to eat up as much of that as possible. I'm gonna resurrect instead. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I don't mind that either. Yeah, resurrect some of those units. Reinforce the front lines from the front lines. It's going to be very, very powerful. Indeed, eventually the forces from the light blue player will push all the way through, and they will collapse the naval fortifications here of our orange player, shutting down the lab. Oh, that lab collapsed on top of that dolphin. That's tragic. And yeah, that's our orange player effectively removed from the game. Yeah, no constructors on land anymore, so for the time being, those, the entire southern naval field goes handily to the light blue player. That does, of course, open this line here. Already captured and controlled by Commander Zod here, so that's quite nice, but it also opens up this back line, right? And there's a geothermal right there, which would be an excellent snipe. I think a destroyer would probably be able to shoot at that, and it also opens up, obviously, amphibious tanks rolling up this hill. Any sort of harassment like that. Things are not looking good for the red team, in other words. Major amount of frigates are out here. There's a single destroyer. We're making it 2. Okay, I like 2 destroyers better than 1, certainly. Still, the army size is just nowhere near relative to the Purple Army's capabilities here. A split force, not a terrible idea, but you have to make sure you're microing it properly, because if you split up your forces, of course, it's going to make your enemy trade a whole lot more efficiently against your units. Torpedo launcher here will be shut down, and that is good. That's one major threat to this navy here. Those torpedo launchers are quite savage. They can really, really ravage well, anything. Oh, don't lose the destroyers. I really would have loved to see a little bit of aggression there from Nowik. Moving the destroyer, or moving the units in to try and snag a kill on one of those destroyers would have been quite nice. Those are absolutely the heavy hitters here, and catching 1 or 2 of those off guards is going to be a great way to maintain any kind of chance in this game here. Commander is forced to move forward here. I wouldn't mind seeing the commander self-destruct in order to try and kill some of these units. I think the self-destruct might have been the only chance that we had of shutting down this massive navy for the purple player. Do we have any res bots out here? No res subs currently for either of these players. Commander will go down, but it does more damage to its friendly forces than the enemy forces, and that is a massive naval blunder, as now the purple player has spiraled completely in their economy sector. We need a res sub out. 1 or 2 death cavalry to eat up all this juicy metal, and you're going to be solidly anchoring yourself in the naval game. That being said, I still think there's enough here to continue applying pressure and eventually overwhelming the red player. Just have to take these fights 1 unit at a time, make sure that we're not overcommitting to any one fight, and eventually you're going to be in a really, really good position. Similar to Danka's position over here, who is transitioning into seaplane gunships. He's already got 3 of them out, and I have a feeling we're not going to stop there. Those gunships can do quite a bit of damage here, especially to a bunch of clustered up wind turbines like this. Very, very good against that. They have a little bit of impulse. Looks like a constructor was handed out here so that Shogunek would be able to continue playing in the game, but is going to be essentially starting from scratch. It's nice that he has these metal extractors in the bottom lane already, but still not going to be a phenomenal start here. A phenomenal restart, if you will. Construction sub now eating up all the wreckages here, but there's also a res sub for the red player eating everything up here, and that's really nice. It's cheeky that he's managing to pull the wreckages from that field, but absolutely necessary. There's also a commander down here. There's got to be several thousand metals, almost 7,000 metal, probably more before these units started eating it up. But yeah, obviously whoever has more constructors eating is going to be the player with more metal in their bank at the end of the day. And I think right now that's going to be Rebel Node. Just producing T1 ships. Rebel Node content to produce T1 as well, although I think he could stand to make a little bit more build power. Yeah, he's got the energy, he's got the metal, he just doesn't have the build power to get units out on the field right now. Could actually be a massive blunder because those units need to be, well, they need to be positioned properly. We do have a joined force of navies though, so that is nice. Dankist has relocated his naval forces up north here using this channel that has been captured by his teammates here, and you can see this has allowed the combined naval forces to secure readily this big metal field right here in the middle of the map. That overflow is funneling a lot of resources into the middle of the map. Massive commander explosion right there. Wipes out effectively the entire army of the red team. That is going to be a decisive victory, I do believe. There's not enough static defense to hold back all these bots. They can just... Oh, it was a comm bomb. Oh, I see. Wait, what? Yeah, it was a comm bomb. Okay, I see. Yeah, very, very nicely done. Gunships will now move into the base, and that is going to be all she wrote here. Got some extra commentators in the chat. Always happy to hear from people. And yeah, that is going to be a decisive push right here. Now, there's a minefield. Are we going to respect this? Currently, the answer looks like it's going to be no. Big mistake. The minefield can easily tear apart these forces. Well, okay. I mean, sticks and stones may break my bones, but landmines surely will obliterate them. Tsalk's commander in a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, seaplane gunships easily shooting down that commander. I think that is going to be all she wrote here for the red team in the first game of this best of 3 series. Let's move on to game number 2. And here we are on map number 2 of this series, Charlie in the Hills. This is a really fun one, especially for the 4v4 format, because it's a lot of 4s, 4v4 format, because it offers a really interesting set of spawn positions. So you can see that there are 2 players that are effectively frontliners. That is going to be for the, oh, we've had a bit of a swap in here. That's a bit odd. Hailing from the wrong country. I guess substitutions must be allowed during this game. But anyway, I'm still going to call it the Polish team here, spawning in the southern side, represented by blue. And now Pretoric is going to be the team leader here, represented by blue, SPM Pretoric, and is spawning in the tech position. So in the frontline position, it's going to be Shogunik, and in the other frontline position, it's Marian. And both of which are going to be fighting for essentially control over this part of the map, right? Both of them are sort of vying for these individual sectors. These hills right here, and then also these hills over here. It's kind of where most of the frontline fighting happens. Then you have this player in the middle line, and this player has a lot of interesting decisions to make. One of the things that they can do is go into tech immediately, right? They can just get a whole bunch of metal extractors, get a geothermal, start a tech transition as quickly as possible, get T2 up ASAP, hand it out to his teammates, and make sure that that T2 transition happens very, very quickly, extremely quickly for most maps, comparatively to most maps. One of the other options, of course, is that they can contribute a whole lot of units to the front line, right? They can use that superior economy they get from all these extra metal extractors, from this geothermal, from all this extra stuff, and use it to pump out tanks, units, whatever they want to contribute to the front line. They can get a whole lot of it out there, and that's another option that they have. The backline players as well are also essentially forced into air. It's well understood that this is the air player, right? You're up on this cliffside. Maybe I didn't get a great enough view of it. I can show you easier on this side. How about? You can see you're up on the cliffs. You're not going anywhere without an air transport. So I mean, that's exactly what we are about to see from these players. I'm sure we do have a air scout going out here, and we will switch over to the Dankist cam to see what the scout has revealed. We now know where the blue player is, the purple player, the green player, and by proxy, it means that we are well aware of the aquamarine player, the light blue player. I like it quite a lot. This scout has been very, very revealing here, and I think it's definitely well worth going for an early scouting plane, just so that you can get a look at where your enemies are and where their economy is, right? It does you no good to bomb your enemy if you don't know where the valid bombing targets are. Bombing 1 or 2 metal extractors is not usually going to be as worth it as bombing a whole field of wind harvesters, wind producers. My biggest fans, the wind turbines. Very, very, very good bombing target as opposed to, you know, this. Rovers do manage to make it through, and they will shut down a metal extractor that was up and coming here. Not the end of the world, but it is nice. Get a little bit of value out of that. Since we already have the scouting plane hovering away in the air there, I feel like it's probably a good idea to go for, yeah, a little bit of aggression, since you already know exactly where your opponents are going to be at. Interesting, Nowik has not gone into an air lab yet, has instead gone for a bot lab, getting plenty of constructors up. I wonder if he's going to go for a heavy wind turbine focus here. Wind is definitely very powerful on this map at a max of 22 and a min of 2, with a 5.5% wind speed average, or 5.5 wind risk rather. That's the percentage of time underneath the minimum threshold of 6. It's very low, in other words, so the wind speed is quite good on this map. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a whole lot of wind turbines coming up here. Nowik is, oh, interesting. I think he's going to sacrifice his commander here. Probably going to blow it up and use it to go T2, if I had to guess. Interesting. So I guess they're going to leave teching up to Nowik. Although I guess maybe he could go into T2 air and then use T2 air as the T2 constructors that he hands out to his teammates. That's another option. It is a very fast option, but it's not always the most stable option, right? 2 or 3 fighters can shoot down everybody's T2 constructors rather quickly. Bomber is already coming across the map. It has its designated target. It's going to take out all the wind production, and as well as maybe some build power here for Predarik. Yeah, this is dangerous. Down come the bombs, and they do kill 2 metal extractors, tons of wind turbines. That is a very, very powerful bombing run right there. That was about as efficient as you could hope to be with that bomber. That was really, really nicely done. So important to scout, because it lets you get these super hyper efficient bombing runs in without actually having to lose the bombers or send in 4 or 5 bombers. You can do effectively the same job with just one really well placed bomber. I think that's about as effective a bombing run as we could have hoped for here. Maybe coming across these solar panels in this kind of a direction might have worked as well. However, yeah, I think I like that quite a bit more, just because we did, of course, take down those metal extractors. 50 metal a pop, that's going to trade relatively efficiently against these bombers, which are 150 a pop. Plus, of course, all those wind turbines. Nicely done. Okay, interesting. This is not what I was expecting here. Nowik decided to go into T2. He ate up the commander entirely. He's going into anti-air, going into wind turbines, going into T2. I think we need to choose one thing to focus on here. We've already got an anti-air turret. We're going for a second one, and I suppose I don't mind that, since we do know that they're going for a little bit of bombing shenanigans here, but still. Going into the T2 lab should probably take precedence here. He is eating up the T1 solar panels, so I'm always super excited to see that. That really tickles my fancy, and especially if we're going to use that metal to go into T2. You can see the T2 lab now only about 800 or so metal away, and that's going to easily be made up for by eating up a lot of these T1 solar panels. Bomber does come in for another bombing run, not nearly as effective this time, as there is anti-air out and about, and I think eventually the age of the bomber is going to come to an end. Units being re-rallied around here on the front lines. Commander Zod taking a oppressive front line here. Nertzy also doing a great job at that, making sure to hold down these front lines as tightly as possible, not allowing an inch over what is necessary for the enemy's expansion. Of course, all of that equates to more and more metal at your disposal, and that is why these players are so opted in to control as much of this as possible. You can see these metal extractors built all over the place. All of the metal extractors on this map are worth the same amount, I do believe, 1.7. Meaning controlling an area of the map is more effective than controlling, say, a specific spot on the map here. Blitz is going to shut down this exploiter. That's quite nice. Those exploiters are tough to kill, so it's always nice to get the kill on those. No, you don't have to worry about it. Wouldn't mind seeing that eaten up by a commander over here on the front lines. Bombers tearing down some of this light laser defense, trying to get a decent bombing run on whatever they can. Yeah, I kind of agree with this. Going solar on this map is a little bit bad for you. It's bad for your mental health. Bombers are now going to come into the base here of Shogunik, and they are going to come right across on his solar panels, dropping their heavy payload. They don't manage to kill him, but they will close them up for the time being, and now there are tons of blitzes rolling through here. This is a lot of damage. Shogunik needs some way to deal with this. These blitzes are going in for the kill, and there's not a lot to stop them currently. That heavy armor follow-up is very powerful. Blitz is kind of paving the way here, and then the medium tanks just falling behind wherever they can. Gonna take down a constructor, very nice, popping a whole lot of metal extractors as well, and now they're well into the base of Shogunik. This is a great opener here for the red team. This is exactly the kind of damage that you're hoping for in the early game. Exactly what you need in order to close out one of these games very quickly. The Finnish team is not looking to play around here. They are only looking for absolute victory, and it looks like it is within grasp. At this point, medium tanks are going to shut down the vehicle lab of Shogunik, who has essentially no other option but to use his commander as his last remaining base defense. Marion is faring a little bit well, but that's only because so much aggression has been applied elsewhere on the map. Dankist going for an interesting little shenanigan over here. Interesting. I think Marion should counterattack right now. I think Marion should see the aggression happening on the other side of the map, and if you're not going to contribute forces to go help with that, I think you should contribute your forces to assault the front lines here. Yeah, that's a lot of grunts and a lot of aggravators, and both of which are highly prone to engagement from the Blitz, and that's exactly what we see here. Blitzes are going to march forward, tearing apart all of these units here, getting a great engagement. Going to scare some of these units back here from the other team. Blue player is now forced into well, just a whole bunch of vehicles on the front line. There's really no other option. Something in order to deal with all of this, right? Bombers continuing to come in here. Chainsaws up, though, so I don't think those are going to get much effect anymore. But yeah, these blitzes coming out are great for holding the line, but you have to remember that that's all they're doing. They're holding the line. We're not seeing any sort of tech improvement right now. We're not seeing essentially anything. And yeah, still no air in the back line here. Nowik is just going into more and more T2. He still has the T2 lab up, but he's short on metal. Obviously, what you should do is eat that up. If he doesn't have a metal storage, of course, some of that's going to overflow to the team, but at this point, I don't think that should really be your biggest concern. And these 4v4s overflowing to your team is much less of a concern. It's definitely a more friendly matchup. I like that we're slowly applying pressure here, but I think we need to go just a tad faster. Yeah, I think if we had a little bit more speed under our belts here for Marion, I think it would probably apply just a bit more pressure, and it would mean that Rebel Node felt a little less comfortable applying forces over here to the right-hand side. It's going to free up your players over here. Of course, amphibious tanks are an option as well if you can get them into the pond over here. A little bit prone to attack on the land, so not always your best option, but certainly an option here. Hovercraft, of course, could work well. Essentially able to seek refuge in the pond, right? And so they can not be countered. Floating anti-air would also be quite nice here, since Predator continually remains bombed. Chainsaw here will shut down these bombers, and they are no longer getting any effect. We're going to need to either see a whole lot more bombers, or we're going to need to see a change in strategy here. Now, Shuriken wouldn't be bad either. A whole bunch of Shuriken can paralyze effectively this entire line, making it very, very easy for these bots to march forward. But frankly, the bots are not doing bad on their own here. Aggravators mixed in with Thugs going to do a huge amount of damage when they get all within range and start firing away. Right now, just taking, kind of a sustained fire here from these artillery pieces. Missile trucks are pretty good against those grunts. They're a little bit less good against those aggravators, and they're not great against those Thugs. You have to keep them at just the right distance, but if a good commander is controlling that army, he's definitely going to be making sure that those units continually march in and out and in and out, and making sure that there's always some way that the units are being re-rallied, whether it's a repeat command, whether it's individual micro, however it's going to be, just making sure that there's always some movement on those units so that they're never staying under sustained fire for too long. Do we have a tech transition? We sure do. So T2 is being handed out here on the front lines. You can see that Rebel Node has gone up to T2 and handed out a constructor swiftly to both of his commanders on the low ground here. Bombers are still being produced and sent. Over here, I guess we're still trying to continue the bombing runs. Oh, this is quite nice. So Dankist has gone for the rear vehicle lab and is now sweeping down from the hills with his vehicles. What an excellent way for a AR player to contribute on the front line. Sneaking out a constructor over here. I mean, a commander of all things, but yeah, sneaking one out and gonna put a whole bunch of forces into the back line here. And these aren't just any forces, these are medium tanks, so they are difficult to clean up. They take a while to mop up in their entirety, and it's certainly exactly what you want for these run-bys here. Not always an option, but sneaking them in from the back is definitely one way to get that done. They pop all the energy converters, they're gonna pop a whole bunch of metal extractors right now. Not super big fan of this engagement. I think they'd probably do better to try and focus down on these metal extractors right here, shut down the economy for the blue player. The blue player is effectively holding together this right-hand side, and Commander Zod will be freed up to march on in there, taking down the remaining forces of Shogunik as soon as the blue player is eliminated from this game. Geothermal under fire. Ooh, friendly fire from the Jin is very, very dangerous. At this point, this line has completely collapsed, though. You can see these Resbots actually repairing and resurrecting whatever they can off the front lines here. That's actually quite nice. Gonna pick up some of these light laser towers, gonna pick up some of these, well, at least this cloaked unit, and gonna pick up basically anything else lying around in that area. Yeah, at this point, the red team just has too much map control. Their economy has spiraled. I think it was way too greedy to go, oh, interesting. Going to go for a nuclear launcher, and we are way behind as far as that goes. Yeah, this build is suboptimal. I think this probably needs a little bit more practice here from Nowak. I like the idea, but it's just not going to pay out in this match. And all said and done, I think it's just a little too late here, as there is suddenly units on all sides. No metal left in the eco here for the blue team. You can see 81 metal for our Polish players here versus 216-ish. Well, that's with reclaim. It's probably closer to 100-ish, 160-ish metal per second coming in here for our Finnish players. Nicely done. That is going to be GG here, and that is going to be Finland putting 2 points on the board, winning this best of 3 series. What an exciting matchup. I'm super excited to cover more of these games. I'll have more and more of them coming out here in the following days, so stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this kind of format, or even better, leave a comment down below. I always love to hear from you guys. I really rely on your feedback a whole lot. That's how I fix my audio problems too, so hopefully those are a little better. Anyways, I will see you in the very next video. Stay tuned. Don't forget to have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode.